Okay, so today's lecture is dedicated to writing a bigger sentence in writing task 1. We have found out through our experience that it is usually difficult for students to write a bigger sentence in writing task 1. This leads to writing too many small sentences and the band code would remain stick to 6 bands only. This small lecture is dedicated to writing or making a bigger sentence out of a small sentence. Let us try to understand the fundamentals of making a sentence. First thing first, the sentence consists of two important things. The first one is the subject, and the second one is going to be the verb. Uh, you need these two things, to make a sentence a complete sentence. For example, uh, the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased. Now, in this sentence, the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad is a subject and increased is a verb. So you need two things, the subject and the verb, for a sentence to be called a complete sentence. So this entire sentence is of 9 words. Now let us try to elaborate this sentence. Let us try to make the sentence as much bigger as possible. So what we can do is we can add numbers into this. So this was the previous sentence. The number of Indian tourists who travel abroad increased. So what we can do is we can add a number to it. For instance, uh, what we have done is the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased from 5 million to 50 million. So from 9 words, we have stretched the sentence to 15 words by adding numbers to it. Can we add more? Can we add more words to it? Let us see. Let us try to add when the number of Indian tourists who traveled, or what is the duration when this got increased. So what we have done over here is the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased from 5 million to 50 million between 1985 and 1995. So what we have done is we have added when this increase took place. So this took place between 1985 and 1995. So this way we increase the number of words for a sentence from 15 to 19 words. What else we could do? Let us see. Okay. Now we can always think that, was this number the exact number or was it approximate number? So what we can add over here is the number of Indian tourists who travel abroad increased from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995. Usually the figures in line graph or a bar chart are approximate. So by adding this this phrase is like just under or around, we can increase the number of words from 19 to 22. Is there a possibility by which we can increase the length of the sentence even more? Let us see that once again. Okay, now we can add an adverb to describe the verb. So let us read the older sentence. The number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995. What we have done is, what we could do rather is, the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased dramatically from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995. So we increased the word dramatically and put it just before or just after increased. So we added an adverb after the verb. Increased is a verb and dramatically is an adverb. So this way we increase the length of the sentence from 22 words to 23 words. Okay. We can also do a small rephrase. We can rephrase this with a noun. For example, uh, the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased dramatically from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995. Now, what we can do is we can add a noun phrase. For example, we can add this wonderful sentence over here. The number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased dramatically from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995, a rise of about 10 million in 10 years. So what we have done is we've added this phrase and increased the length of the sentence from 23 words to 32 words. We just added, we can see that, in this span of 10 years, there was a rise of about more than 10 million in 10 years. Can we add something else? Let us see. Okay. Uh, this is the last thing that we could do. What we can do is there was a dramatic, let us read the older sentence. The number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased dramatically from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995, a rise of about 10 million in 10 years. Now, the length of this sentence is 32 words. What we could do is that instead of writing the number of Indian tourists who traveled abroad increased dramatically, we can begin with a noun, and which I think is the best way out. So what we have done is we started the sentence with there was a dramatic increase in the number of Indian tourists. This line phrase we have added. So instead of increase dramatically, we added there was a dramatic increase in the number of Indian tourists who travel abroad from just under 5 million to around 50 million between 1985 and 1995, comma, a rise of about 10 million in 10 years. So we have increased the sentence from 32 words to 36 words. Okay. So this is the final sentence that we created, out of a simple sentence. Now, the sentence that we started with was of 9 words. A simple sentence, a number of Indian tourists who travel abroad increased. Instead of that, by adding when, by adding an adverb, by adding a noun phrase, we increase the length of the sentence from 9 words to 36 words. This is the way, and there is no need to further increase the length of the sentence. This is a perfect sentence that you can create by writing 1 or 2 sentences in your writing task. I'm sure you'll be able to get a very good score. Thank you so much.